Da-na-na-na-na-na.
Yeah, you can be the intro. Be the intro.
No.
Be one with the intro. All right, hey guys, and welcome to another Real Talk. I am your host, Pastor Kyle. Or, you know, the other day somebody called
PK.
Listen, stop talking. Somebody called me Pastor K, and I kind of like it
Now I
because I never did like Pastor Spencer or Pastor Kyle. I don't know. It just kind of doesn't. It doesn't
Pastor
sound.
Spencer make you sound old.
Yeah. Or like I have two first names.
Yeah.
But when somebody called me Pastor K, I was just like, yeah, I could be okay with that.
Like Coach K?
Yeah. Or Captain, like Captain Crunch.
That might fit better.
Anyways, Pastor Kyle here, Pastor K, whatever you want to call me. Just call me late for dinner.
I know.
And my annoying co-host here,
Henry Roman Esquire.
I didn't ask you to tell them your name. They don't want it. We don't want to know him. I'm just kidding. This guy's okay. This guy's all right. Anyways, thank you guys for coming on once again and joining us for another evening of Real Talk.
Yep.
Where we talk about the things that
Are real.
are real. I need an intro better. I need a better
Tagline or something.
yeah, we need something. So hit us up in the comments. What do you think our tagline should be?
Yeah.
I think you guys should help us come up with that because we're not intelligent people up here. That's outside of our ability to think.
That's out of the realm. That's out of the galaxy.
Yeah.
We'll get it.
I mean, our mothers loved us, but I feel like they've dropped us a couple times.
You think? They'll probably admit now that the statute of limitations is worn off.
Right. Anyways, we got some talking to do tonight because that's kind of what we do. We really talk.
Yeah. Right,
Hey, there we go.
Keep it real.
No, so anyways, we some stuff happened the other week and other week, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it blurs.
And I'm gonna use my son as an illustration. And I always hated, like, I always felt bad for my pastor kids friends when I was growing up because their dad would always use them as a example in or a sermon illustration, and you just see him on the front row just
Cringe.
and you were cringing for them that their business was being put out there. But you know what?
Oh, yeah.
I grew up, we survived, and now it's my turn.
Yeah.
So anyways, for those of you that know my son, he is a pain in the butt a lot of the times, but still love him. Still a great kid. However, he has these moments. Mm-hmm. He has a moment.
Now you know what your parents had to deal with.
I was an angel.
Yeah, you're a fallen angel.
No, I was part of the 2/3, sir.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Anyways, so my son is very competitive in nature, and he comes by that very honestly.
Where would that come from?
You know what? Nobody's asking you questions right now. I'm talking. So anyways, he wanted to race. So again, I told you guys last week that my knee hurts because of my stupidity on a skateboard, and I don't bounce like I used to when I fall. I just fall, and concrete says, hold on.
The ground wins.
Yes. So anyways, my leg hurts. However, he wanted to race, so I was like, sure, we'll race. And I smoked him. And I pushed through the pain, and it was great. And I felt like a champion.
Mm-hmm. And leg fell off.
Yep. So then he wanted to race. So then I raced Harmony, and Harmony beat me. My little girl beat me. But then Preston wanted to race Harmony because he didn't understand how she could have beat me. It's not possible. So then I made sure that she won. And then he wanted to race my wife. And my wife beat him the first time. But then...
Take that L, boy.
But then he's like, no, I want a rematch. So then he beats her the second time. And at this point, he stops wanting to race me. Because he's going to lose. And then we raced a couple more times, and he's like, oh, but I was really close to you. And I was just like, that's because I'm not running my fastest. And so finally one time I gave it everything I had, and I pushed through, and I smoked him. He was still halfway to the end.
Like a brisket.
It was, yeah, fell apart, just fell apart. So moral of the story is my son was taking a lot of L's that day, and he got tired of losing. So what did he do? He started trying to get my wife to race him again, which as a father made me mad because I knew why he was doing it. It wasn't just because he wanted to race and have fun. It was his intent behind it. That
you mean it wasn't bonding with his mom?
Yeah, no. He did it because he wanted to make himself feel good by beating somebody that he knew couldn't run as fast as him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that the arrogance of it just really sent me over the edge, where I was hot, I was mad. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna be real, because that's what real talk is, right? I was mad, y'all, and I started to kind of get onto him. I was like, no, the only reason you're trying to race your mom is because you're trying to make yourself feel good by putting somebody else down. I say, how do you think they're gonna? So then I'm like, no. I said, you know what? Get on the line. So I raced him, and man, I didn't even give it my everything. I just made sure I beat him, and as soon as I'd crossed that finish line, I started walking back to the start. And I was like, get on the line. So we'd get back to the start, and I'd race him again. And then I'd walk. As soon as I crossed the line, I did it again. I did this like 6 or 7 times. Again, I wasn't giving it my everything, but he was. And finally, I was just like, are you done? Have you had enough? And I was like, nope, you haven't had enough.
One more.
Yeah, so I did a couple more times. And at this point, you could tell it was just the frustration in his face. And I started having a conversation with him where I said, you know, I was once told when I was younger. Well, let me back up. My boxing coach never allowed me to fight people at practice that weren't better than me. And if I was fighting somebody that was not as good as me, it was a training exercise. It wasn't a fight. Because to them it was a fight. To me it was, hey, you're training them. You're helping them get better.
Exactly.
You're not out to destroy them. You're not out there to just whoop up on them. You're gonna give them a fight that they can learn from, not something that they're gonna walk away discouraged.
Yeah, you're just pounding them into the sand. Yeah.
And so me and his son would fight all the time because our skill levels were very close to where though he was a little bit better than me, a little bit faster than me, I had more power. So even though we were pretty equally matched, we were still learning from each other because we had different aspects of the fight. So that he was really the only one that I fought. Because again, it was what's going to make you better. So one time his son would win, one time I would win, one time his son would win, and we would constantly push each other to get better. We were always competing, and it was a friendly competition because end of the day, we were on the same team.
But that's a healthy competition because both of you coming out of it with something you learned, you're getting better, and you're not demoralizing your opponent.
Yeah. So I tried to have this conversation with Preston, and I was telling him, I'm like, listen, I said, you can't go and race somebody just to make yourself feel better because you're not accomplishing anything. If anything, you're actually going to make yourself weaker because you're not going to have to try as hard.
Yep.
And I said, and you have nothing that you're not learning, you're not developing yourself, you're not building yourself to be stronger. And there was this term that was said to me. My grandpa said it to me, and some other people in my life have said it to me. But the one individual that I remember it coming from is my grandpa. And my grandpa said, never be the smartest person in the room. And for the longest time, I never understood what that really meant because I didn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. How many times have we ever heard things where we're just like, that might be great advice, but I could care less. I just want to go do my own thing, and I'm having to sit here and talk to you and get lectured and everything else.
Yep.
And
at a point, you just have to say what it is.
I remember the reason my grandpa said that to me was because at some point I kept on saying, I know. I know. Yeah. I know. Every time he says, I know. And I didn't know.
Sound good, though.
Yeah, it sounded great. But I never really understood what that meant until later in life. And now, especially now, I understand it to the fullest, is you never want to be the smartest person in the room because you won't have anything to learn from anybody. If I walk into a room, even if I may be the smartest person in the room, it's not, I highly doubt it, but
it's more the attitude that you're getting at.
And you may be the most intelligent person in the room. However, you can't have the attitude that I can't learn anything from anybody else. Yep. Because sometimes people that don't know anything about the subject can give you the best insight. Sometimes people that have only been doing it 3 months have picked something out on a different way to do something or a new concept that can be introduced to you that you may have overlooked or have forgotten.
Yep.
Because their naiveness to whatever the subject might be. And it's a great thing to have. And we could probably just leave you with that at the end of this conversation is don't be the smartest person in the room and always push to strive to the better. Don't challenge, don't eliminate the challenge to make yourself feel better.
Yep. I know a guy that I competed against, and though I've always been very athletic, let me preface that I haven't always been that. But
I was just gonna say you haven't.
I look athletic now, but I found athleticism through the discipline of starting to work out. Because as a kid, I was a little chubbier, and then I started getting outside, and I started to work at things. And
just decided to go back to grassroots.
Yeah, I went in reverse. Yeah, I went back to chubby kid now. But it's like what I found is I found athleticism through just trying different things. And sometimes people that just get stuff, they tend to skip steps. Mm-hmm. So when you skip steps, I lost some of the things I would have learned along the way, the intricacies of the little things that I would have learned, the technique of doing this and the technique of doing that. So there were kids that I could just outrun, but the kid could run a better route than I could because he had to focus on footwork where I could just flat out blow past him. So now where that kid was turning on a dime, stopping, running the other direction, would catch the ball, I was like, now I feel really bad because I'm like, I know I'm faster than this kid, but how did he out-trick me to still get the ball? So what sometimes things happen is it's really you're working out. And
he didn't mention this, but for you those that don't understand a whole lot of sports, he's talking about football here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's football. So
you know the thing that you kick around the ground and go back and forth, and then there's a big net at the end of the thing?
No, not that football.
Oh.
That's football. But, and what I found is I started to learn some of those things. So then as I would go against people that were better, now I can use the athleticism or whatever I had plus the footwork. So then it made me better. And sometimes what happens is all of this really boils into sometimes a prideful behavior because if you are smart and you think you're the smartest person in the room, pride doesn't allow the guy that just walked in to tell you anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't let the slow guy tell you about footwork because you could care less. I can outrun you, dude. Shut up. But that's a prideful behavior and a prideful way of looking at it. So Preston's ability to beat his mom, it made him feel better. But what about how it makes her feel when she gets beaten over and over? And I think you had to show him what that looked like. And, this could go into a point of being a good father, but part of that is sometimes you need to show somebody that just as bad as what you were going to do to hurt that person, let me show you what this looks like. Give you a really good picture so that now you can act better.
So you're exactly right. My intent on that was to show him something that he could imitate. Mm-hmm. That, hey, yes, I could do this to you, but I would never want to beat you every time. Yeah.
You put skin on it.
And I try to break it down to the lowest level for him to where he would understand exactly not just the purpose behind it, but the emotion behind it. Mm-hmm. And the meaning and everything else that, yes, you might understand it from what I'm telling you, and you're going to be like, yeah, Dad, I get it. But when I do that to you, all of a sudden now that illustrates exactly what the individual that you're doing it to, mm-hmm. how they feel.
Yep.
And it sets you back a little bit more where you're like, oh, mm-hmm. okay, maybe I shouldn't do that to that person. Yeah. But, it goes on. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. This is Paul, Silas, and Timothy talking to the church of the Thessalonians. And I encourage all of Paul's letters to the churches are great, especially if you belong to a church. It really gives you a lot of insight and imitation that you can follow, especially if you're a minister, even more so. But starting in verse 6, their letter starts to talk about idleness, and some different things. And I want to kind of dive into this because I feel like it really follows the example of everything that I was trying to put on Preston. Mm-hmm. It says, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, again, this is 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 6. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we command you, brothers and sisters, to keep away from every believer who is idle and disruptive and does not live according to the teaching you received from us. For you yourselves know how you ought to follow our example. We are not idle when we are with you, nor do we eat anyone's food without paying for it. On the contrary, we worked night and day, laboring and toiling so that we would not be a burden to any of you. We did this not because we do not have the right to such help, but we did it in order to offer ourselves as a model for you to imitate. Mm-hmm. For even when we were with you, we gave you this rule. The one who is unwilling to work shall not eat. We hear that there are some among you who are idle and disruptive. They are not busy, they are busybodies. Such people we command and urge in the Lord Jesus Christ to settle down and earn the food they eat. And as for you, brothers and sisters, never tire of doing what is good. So yes, I understand that it's different, because what I was trying to teach Preston was, hey, don't belittle people because of their lack of talent compared to yours, but push to strive to be better. And that is essentially what Paul, Silas, and Timothy are saying here, is stay away from the people that are idle, stay away from the people that are disruptive, but push to be better. Make sure you're out there working. Don't just act busy, because that's what a busybody does, is they have so much going on, but they don't accomplish anything. But actually do. Actually accomplish. Surround yourselves with people that are like-minded and that are going to help you grow. Because at the end of the day, even as Christians, iron sharpens iron. And if I am surrounding myself around people that are constantly questioning faith, that are constantly questioning, God's purpose in their life, constantly questioning if they're doing the right things, then essentially that's what I'm going to turn into. But if I'm surrounding myself with people that are uplifting each other, that are encouraging each other, that are holding each other accountable.
Yep. And it's like he said, follow the model. I mean, they offer ourselves as a model for you to imitate. So they imitated all of those good qualities.
And to not be the smartest person in the room. To understand that, guess what? Me and Henry here, there's things, I can't believe I'm going to say this on camera.
Go ahead, sell it. Sell it.
There are things that Henry knows that I don't. Henry is far more intelligent than me, probably across the board.
What?
However,
now you prophesying.
However, there are things that I know that Henry doesn't know.
Like computers?
And that's the iron sharpens iron. If I were to ask Henry, hey, I want you to set up tonight's stream from scratch, from start to finish, and I'm not going to do any of it. I just want to sit back in this chair and talk through a microphone. Chances are Henry's not going to be able to do it.
I could just go live on Facebook barely.
And it would be from his phone.
It's going to be from my phone.
And it's not going to be from my computer. It's not going to be using the software that we're using, using the cameras that we're using the sound equipment that we're using, the HDMI switcher that we're using. None of that is going to be in play. And why? It's not because Henry's not intelligent. It's because it's not a realm that he's familiar with.
I can stack them up to stand on them.
Like those milk crates?
Yeah, I ain't never doing that.
Next week.
That would be an earthquake.
Next week, Real Talk presents Kyle and Henry, the Milk Crate Ninjas.
The dead ninjas.
We'll start out small. We'll just do one milk crate.
Oh, jeez.
I win.
Yeah, all right. Now we get back to the beginning of the story.
But yes, end of the day, it comes down to this, guys, is allow yourselves to be trainable. Allow yourselves to be teachable. Allow yourselves to be okay with the fact that this guy might be smarter than me and I may be smarter than him.
We have different areas.
Understand that the people around you, even if we both know a specific area, if we both have this common subject that we're both quote unquote subject matter experts in, have an understanding that there's still probably things about that subject that I know that he doesn't and that he knows that I don't. that we can still learn from each other. We can still sharpen each other. We can still grow to be better.
Yep.
Take the lessons from Paul, Silas, and Timothy and understand that just acting busy isn't going to help you grow. Just sitting idle and being disruptive to everybody else that is accomplishing things isn't going to help you grow. Join alongside of them. Come arm in arm and grow together.
Yep.
Because end of the day, that is what we do to be successful for the kingdom of heaven.
Yep. And it's really it boils down to promoting humility within each other, because what happens is if there's some areas that you're good at, I mean, we obviously always poke each other in the side about every single thing. I mean, everything. You would not believe. You don't even want to hear some of the off-camera stuff. I mean, we poke each other in the side all day long. But
they're not going to listen to us anymore if we talk about that stuff.
Right? But there are points that we can look at each other and say, okay, well, you do X well. And if we can do that honestly with people around us, it makes us better, because I'm not having to thumb my nose at someone because I can outrun them. I mean, there's people that I can outrun, and then there's people that would run past me like I was standing still. But if I just race my kids and say, okay, yeah, I can beat all you guys, and that's the only people I'll race, I'll never get better. So if you go and, like, use an analogy, like you go to a gym, you're not going to go lift with the person that you can lift twice as much as that person can, because you'll never be challenged to get better.
Unless you're teaching that person on how to lift.
Exactly. Unless you're in a teaching mode, but it should never be a competition, or I'm using this, lane to get better, because I never will. I'm never lifting enough weight to actually challenge myself. So, and then I can outlift a guy, that's, half my weight and all that. And that's good, and now I can thumb my nose at him. But then I'm going to go look back, and there's going to be another bench with a guy that's 10 times my size that is constantly throwing plates on, and I'm going to feel ashamed because I've never even tried to get to that level.
Well, look at the Olympics. Every time that the Olympics come, last Usain Bolt, last Olympics, broke world records, fastest human alive. Well, guess what? At some point, there was a record that he couldn't beat. And what did he do? He set out and he made it his goal that I am going to push to beat this, to be better than this. And this is my goal. This is what I am setting out to do during these Olympics. And he trains and he develops, and he doesn't look at, third place got this. And I know I can beat that, so I'm at least good enough to get third. Yeah, I'm good.
I'll get a medal.
I'm good as long as I can beat third. No, he pushed to be the best. And every Olympian pushes and strives to get first, to be better than the last Olympics finalist. Why? Because they know that everybody else in that circle, everybody else is doing that 100-meter dash. Guess what? They're all pushing and striving to be better than the first place at the last Olympics. And if they're only settling for third place at the last Olympics,
you never train for third place.
They'll never place.
Yep. Even if I know that I have a whole second behind a guy, which is in a track world, that's a country mile. But even that, I'm still training to be first, because you know what? What happens if he stumbles out of the gate?
Yeah.
I could get gold. But what if I never train for it? He can stumble out of the gate and still beat me because I've never pushed myself.
And the other half of this is to say, well, I'm never going to be that good, so I'm just not going to show up. Guess what? Usain Bolt, fastest human alive. If everybody would have said, well, I'm never going to get first, so why am I even here?
You don't have nobody to race.
Ain't nobody going to race him. Ain't nobody going to show up. He's going to be the only one at that starting line, and he can take his sweet time. But the thing is he knew everybody was aiming for him.
And they won't show up.
And he was counting on it. He was thriving on it, which means it was pushing him to be better, because he wanted, though he loves to compete and everything, he wants the sport to thrive. He wants the sport to be successful. because that's what true athletes do. They want the sport. They want the people that are coming up to be just as successful, if not more, than him.
Yeah. When the sport dies, I mean, what are you gonna do next week?
When I play people in basketball, like I used to play Henry's kids in basketball, and I would whoop them.
So they get double for their trouble.
And so, and it was fun. Don't get me wrong, like I love doing it. But I wasn't getting better. It wasn't making me better. It wasn't progressing me in my skill level or anything.
You was just whooping the pride out of them.
Yeah. But you know what? They all pushed. And now I have to try a little harder. And I get wore out a little faster than I did before.
They might be trying to push some more of that fried chicken on you. Hey,
right?
Man, it'll slow down eventually.
Right? Maybe that was, hey, that's why
It's a tactic.
I blame them.
I know.
But it comes down to, if you're better than people, you shouldn't be thankful that they're not as good as you. You should be pushing them to get better than you. And if you're not as good as somebody, that's okay. You should be striving to imitate.
And even to push them to be better.
Yeah, and strive to imitate the great qualities that they have, and learn from their mistakes to not develop the bad habits and the bad qualities. So, with that all being said, we love you. We care about you. We want you guys to be better, and that's why we're here. And I'm glad to be back again. A couple weeks have passed, and here we are.
Back at it again.
So thankful for you guys and everything that you guys do. Your prayer, your love, your support. I know we say it every week, but I promise it really does mean a lot. And we don't say that half-heartedly. We really do appreciate you guys so much. So, as always, until next time, we care about you. We'll see you then.